Well, the Cats thing is something I lobbied for. A lot of conversations you just have while having lunch with other staff members, and hey, wouldn't it be cool if Musicians Hall of Fame was starting to kick ass? They were doing really well, and they had a great collection. And I thought, we need to bolster the vibe with the local musician community here, and having been a part of that, I decided, well, what if can I do this? And I requested to do it. I did not name it Nashville Cats. That was a committee decision, so, but I mean, I did create, the format for the program. I set it up. I picked the music. I found the photographs. And if I didn't have the photographs, Alan Stoker down there helped me with that. But literally, they give me credit down there now, and they say Bill Lloyd is here today. He set the tone for this program, which, yeah, I did. But I mean, I did a lot more. I did like the first 40 of those programs, and really did them on my own for the most part. So
did all the heavy lifting.
Well, there was a lot of help. There was help. I mean, Alan Stoker, I said, and but I would always make a CD before the program for the music, and Alan would help a lot with the videos, but we would talk about it, so that the video stuff we would discuss, and okay, we'll use that here, and I'd write out a script that I would have to follow, sort of follow. It was a lot of work, and I was there doing it long after I'd left. Actually, I was employed there for about 3 years because I'd done a database for all the instruments. My title was Stringed Instrument Curator, and
at the Country Music Hall of Fame, if we haven't said that yet.
Yeah. And my deal was to go through the collection and make a database, which they didn't have. It was like a spreadsheet. Fill in all this information. I wrote some articles on some of the guitars. When they used to have a physical journal called the Country Music Journal, I wrote a couple articles for that. And it was a fun gig. I mean, it wasn't, I never had a corporate job like that. And so that took some getting used to. But I met some great people down there, a lot of talented, smart folks down there. And, like I said, I did about the first 40 of those Nashville Cats programs. And some of those, I think, still end up getting shown online on their website.
It's a great archive to be able to interview a lot of those people, because there's not. I remember right about the first time I moved to Nashville, I was really curious about. I knew all of these people had played on these albums, but there wasn't really a place where you could go and find out what Jerry Kennedy has played on or what he produced. Like, all of it wasn't always easy, or you could put any name in there. And I always thought, well, why isn't there some database somewhere where you can, find out everything Bob Moore played on? But that's not the way things were done back then.
Yeah, that's true. And I had to do a lot of research for some of that. And, what's so funny is that memory being what it is for everybody, I would hear from some of the musicians themselves, like, I'm pretty sure I played on that one. And then I'll go find some piece of paper somewhere that says, no, you didn't. So, I'm not going to say any names, but I'm just saying that just memory is what it is. No, I don't think anyone was trying to pull the wool over my eyes. I'm just saying it was important for me to do the research that I did do, just to get it right,
These are people that did 2, maybe 3-hour sessions a day.
Sometimes up to 4.
And it wouldn't come out, whatever they recorded that day wouldn't come out until 6 months later or something. So why would you remember what you did that day?
Exactly. And sometimes it goes from being somebody's record to being a jingle or something, it ends up being some other thing that you'd never hear again, or you'd hear as a commercial somewhere. I mean, these guys just worked around the clock, and it didn't always stick with them what they played on, but session logs, or the Musicians Union, kept a lot of that stuff. So that was a great resource. And
were those completely accurate that you know of?
I think they were. I think they were.
That's how they kept track of paying into their own retirement. And stuff like that.
Exactly. And out of all the people, Jerry Kennedy, I got to be actually friends with. In fact, his son Gordon is doing the next long player show that we've got coming up. It's a total aside right there. Sorry, but Jerry, I got to be friends with, and I remember when Billy Sanford was being interviewed. I had he and Wayne Moss and Jerry pose for a picture for me because I said, "All right, here are the 3 guitars on Oh Pretty Women, right here." And I took the picture, and now I've seen it everywhere. It was just backstage, Yeah. But I don't know. It was just a real thrill to get to talk with those guys, and some of them I got to be friendly with,
The records I've listened to more than anything else in my life were those Jerry Lee Lewis country records.
Oh, they're fantastic.
And Jerry Kennedy produced those, so I've never met him, but I figure, okay, that's probably when I become a fanboy and
real
and
nice
talk
guy.
too much.
And of course, Roger Miller, he did those too. And
Played the dobro on Harper Valley PTA.
Exactly. Yeah, he did. He made rockabilly records back in Louisiana. Louisiana Hayride and I don't know. He did a lot in his life. Well, I sure enjoyed it. It was my favorite part of that job when I had it, and I kind of shot myself in the foot because I kept telling them, I said, well, you've got people here on staff, you probably, because it was a lot of work, and I was kind of busy, and I was like I was dropping hints like, you got people here on staff, and then all of a sudden, they never stopped. They stopped calling me. So, but on the other hand, they don't have to pay extra for the people that are on staff, But they've got good people down there, so. And I still get invited to the shows, so that's nice.
What was your job with the guitars, the instruments?
Oh, just going through making the database, and also to take them out of their cases, make sure they would be stored properly. If the strings were too tight, or if someone had left the guitar in there with, starting to bend the neck, yikes, And I remember taking one of Loretta Lynn's guitars out, and the strings had rusted so much that, the rust was falling down on the lap. And I said, I've got to change strings. I had to go ask permission. I said, can I change strings? And I got I got a string deal for the Hall of Fame at the point too, But I remember changing the strings and leaving the old ones in a Ziploc in there and say original strings, And but I got to play my hands. I put my hands on a bunch of Chet guitars. In fact, I had a rolling chair like I'm sitting in right now, and I could roll back from my desk over to where there was a bunch of Chet's guitars, and there's one of his early Gretsch guitars I would play all the time. It had a little amp and I could play it. And I wrote a song called Chet's Right Hand Man, man, that I would use as a sort of people came in the archive and they'd want to see a guitar. I would roll over, pull that guitar out and play this piece. And, it's a finger picky kind of thing. It's on one of my records. And I remember Al Anderson coming up and to visit. And I said, oh, Al, here's one of Chet's guitars. And I play a little bit. He goes, and Al just goes, I can't play like him either. Ow, thank you. But, it's like Chet was, I actually had met Chet a little bit. He was a super nice guy. But I got to put my hands on so many great, iconic instruments. It was...
Just for the folks that watching at home, what are some of the instruments that are there? Jimmy Rogers guitar?
Yeah, there's some of that. I didn't play that one. There's Bill Monroe's mandolin. Mother Maybell's guitar. I got to play Wildwood Flower on her.
She put it on there.
Yeah, and that was one of the first things I played on guitar as a kid. Learning how to play guitar was Wildwood Flower, and Gloria by Van Morrison, which, funny enough, he came in through the archive the same week that I'd played the Mother Maybell guitar. And I thought to myself, okay, the other day I got to play Velvet Flower on Mother Maybell's guitar. Now Van Morrison comes through the archive, and I play Gloria was the other thing I used, you know. And so it was. There were times where it was sort of like, wow, interacting with the legends and, you know. But there was a lot of downtime too of just sort of work, you know. But I left when I left the hall. I went straight out with Cheap Trick, working with those guys, doing Sergeant Pepper shows, and that was fun.
Yeah. Did Rick Nielsen ever come in and see any of the guitars?
Yes, I took him there and showed him around the whole place and took him through the archive and
he has such a knowledge of.
Oh, he's super knowledgeable. When I was working with those guys, we did rehearsals in Rockford, Illinois, and so Rick took me to his house, and we had a meal at his house, and he took me down to his basement, which is his archive, and in fact, there's a big safe where we keep some of the stuff, you know, behind locked doors, you know. But he showed me a bunch of his guitars at his house, and I was like, you know, he's got a great collection. He could probably change the marketplace if he ever unloads, you know, ruin the price of guitars just for all that stuff being available. But yeah, he knows his stuff. What I loved about Cheap Trick was they had the arena appeal, and then they had kind of whatever would be the punk or the new wave kind of appeal, because they didn't play up the glamour. They had two guys that looked like rock stars and two guys that didn't, you know, and there's a definite humor aspect to the songs, to the presentation, and there was a deep dose of like Beatle magic all over it. You know, there was like, they just loved that stuff, and
they interpreted it so well.
Yeah.
A lot of people like it, but they really.
Yeah, no, they were all. But when I got to play with them, it was truly one of those highlight things. You know, I got getting to work with those guys. We did Hollywood Bowl 2 years in a row, and we also did 2 stints in Las Vegas. One was at the Hilton, which is same hotel where Elvis had done. It used to be the American International or something. Now it was the Hilton. But Bunny had Elvis's old dressing room. He had that, and then we went to the Paris, a bigger stage and bigger room, and then we also did like shows in Clearwater, Florida. I remember Donovan being on the bill and opening the show, and I got to play guitar with Donovan, and Robin and came out, and we all sang like some harmonies together. And I mean, there were so many opportunities just to interact with people, part of your record collection when you're a kid, you know. And Cheap Trick really offered that and more, you know.
The Hall of Fame stuff. If is some of that's online?
Yes, I think so, and I think it revolves. I think they take interviews and they'll put them up for a while, and then they'll put something else in.